decreed and sworn to that should she set her foot across the river, this means war to the end between us, and rule for the victor over both. Likewise, say when unguarded they bear their dead to burial, or for some such high purpose, no Khan or Khania of Kaloon ascends the mountain." "Which then is the true master, the Khan of Kaloon or the head of the College of Hes?" I asked again. "In matters spiritual, the priestess of Hes, who is our Oracle and the voice of Heaven. In matters temporal, the Khan of Kaloon." "The Khan? Ah, you are married, lady, are you not?" "Aye," she answered, her face flushing, "and I will tell you what you soon must learn, if you have not learned it already. I am the wife of a madman and he is hateful to me." "I have earned the last already, Khania." She looked at me with her piercing eyes. "What, did my uncle the Shaman, he who is called Guardian, tell you? Nay, you saw, as I knew you saw, and it would have been best to slay you, for oh! what must you think of me?" I made no answer, for in truth I did not know what to think. Also I feared lest further rash admissions should be followed by swift vengeance. "You must believe," she went on, "that I who have ever hated men, that I swear that it is true, whose lips are purer than those mountain snows, I, the Khania of Kaloon, whom they name Heart of Ice, am but a shameless thing," and covering her face with her hand, she moaned in the bitterness of her distress. "Nay," I said, "there may be reasons, explanations, if it pleases you to give them." "Wanderer, there are such reasons, and since you know so much you shall learn them also. Like that husband of mine, I have become mad. When first I saw the face of your companion as I dragged him from the river, madness entered me, and I " "Loved him," I suggested. "Well, such things have happened before to people who were not mad." "Oh!" she went on, "it was more than love. I was possessed, and that night I knew not what I did. A power drove me on, a destiny compelled me, and to the end I am his and his alone. Yes, I am his, and I swear that he shall be mine." And with this wild declaration, dangerous enough under the conditions, she turned and fled the room. She was gone, and after the struggle, for such it was, I sank back exhausted. How came it that this sudden passion had mastered her? Who and what was this Khania? I wondered again, and this was more to the point, who and what would Leo believe her to be? If only I could be with him before he said words or did deeds impossible to recall. 3 days went by, during which time I saw no more of the Khania, who, or so I was informed by Simbri the Shaman, had returned to her city to make ready for us, her guests. I begged him to allow me to rejoin Leo, but he answered politely, though with much firmness, that my foster son did better without me. Now I grew suspicious, fearing lest some harm had come to Leo, though how to discover the truth I knew not. In my anxiety I tried to convey a note to him, written upon a leaf of a water-gained pocket book, but the yellow-faced servant refused to touch it, and Simbri said dryly that he would have naught to do with writings which he could not read. At length on the third night I made up my mind that whatever the risk, with leave or without it, I would try to find him. By this time I could walk well, and indeed was almost strong again, so about midnight, when the moon was up, for I had no other light, I crept from my bed, threw on my garments, and taking a knife which was the only weapon I possessed, opened the door of my room and started. Now when I was carried from the rock chamber where Leo and I had been together, I took note of the way. First, reckoning from my sleeping place, there was a passage 30 paces long, for I had counted the footfalls of my bearers. Then came a turn to the left and 10 more paces of passage, and lastly, near certain steps running to some place unknown, another sharp turn to the right which led to our old chamber. Down the long passage I walked stealthily, and although it was pitch dark, found the turn to the left and followed it till I came to the second sharp turn to the right, that of the gallery from which rose the stairs. I crept round it only to retreat hastily enough, as well as I might, for at the door of Leo's room, which she was in the act of locking on the outside, as I could see by the light of the lamp that she held in her hand, stood the Khania herself. My first thought was to fly back to my own chamber, but I abandoned it, feeling sure that I should be seen. Therefore I determined, if she discovered me, to face the matter out and say that I was trying to find Leo and to learn how he fared. So I crouched against the wall and waited with a beating heart. I heard her sweep down the passage and, yes, begin to mount the stair. Now, what should I do? To try to reach Leo was useless, for she had locked the door with the key she held. Go back to bed? No, I would follow her, and if we met, would make the same excuse. Thus I might get some tidings, or perhaps a dagger thrust. So round the corner and up the steps I went, noiselessly as a snake. They were many and winding, like those of a church tower, but at length I came to the head of them, where was a little landing, and opening from it a door. It was a very ancient door. The light streamed through cracks where its panel had rotted, and from the room beyond came the sound of voices, those of the Shaman Simbri and the Khania. "Have you learned aught, my niece?" I heard him say, and also heard her answer, "A little, a very little." Then in my thirst for knowledge I grew bold, and stealing to the door looked through one of the cracks in its wood. Opposite to me, in the full flood of light thrown by a hanging lamp, her hand resting on a table at which Simbri was seated, stood the Khania. Truly she was a beauteous sight, for she wore robes of royal purple, and on her brow a little coronet of gold, beneath which her curling hair streamed down her shapely neck and bosom. Seeing her, I guessed at once that she had arrayed herself thus for some secret end, enhancing her loveliness by every art and grace that is known to woman. Simbri was looking at her earnestly, with fear and doubt written on even his cold, impassive features. "What passed between you then?" he asked, peering at her. "I questioned him closely as to the reason of his coming to this land, and wrung from him the answer that it was to seek some beauteous woman. He would say no more. I asked him if she were more beauteous than I am, and he replied with courtesy, nothing else. I think that it would be hard to say, but that she had been different. Then I said that though it behoved me not to speak of such a matter, there was no lady in Kaloon whom men held to be so fair as I. Moreover, that I was its ruler, and that I and no other had saved him from the water. And I added that my heart told me I was the woman whom he sought." "Have done, niece," said Simbri impatiently. "I would not hear of the arts you used. Well enough, doubtless. What then?" "Then he said that it might be so, since he thought that this woman was born again, and studied me awhile, asking me if I had ever passed through fire. To this I replied that the only fires I had passed were those of the spirit, and that I dwelt in them now. He said, 'Show me your hair,' and I placed a lock of it in his hand. Presently he let it fall, and from that satchel which he wears about his neck drew out another tress of hair. Oh, Simbri, my uncle, the loveliest hair that ever eyes beheld, for it was soft as silk and reached from my coronet to the ground. Moreover, no raven's wing in the sunshine ever shone as did that fragrant tress." "Yours is beautiful," he said, "but see, they are not the same." "Mayhap," I answered, "since no woman ever wore such locks." "You are right," he replied, "for she whom I seek was more than a woman." And then, though I tried him in many ways, he would say no more. So, feeling hate against this unknown rising in my heart, and fearing lest I should utter words that were best unsaid, I left him. Now I bid you search the books which are open to your wisdom, and tell me of this woman whom she seeks, who she is and where she dwells. Oh, search them swiftly that I may find her and kill her if I can." "Aye, if you can," answered the Shaman, "and if she lives to kill. But say, where shall we begin our quest? Now, this letter from the Mountain that the head priest Oros sent to your court a while ago." and he selected a parchment from a